Cozy Detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Martha.
And I'm Ina.
And we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy. Yay!
I literally interrupted Joy. She was doing our regular intro, and I was like, we should change it for the theme today.
Yes, I love it. And we also have very on theme things that we've done recently. I've watched so much. I actually have a little mini quiz. It's not a hard one, but it's a what do you think is the most popular quiz. So
Ooh, I'm
I
excited
will
to hear
ask you
that.
that later. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited for our case files today. I don't want to jump into them just yet, but I want to know so many things about Ina because I feel like I didn't even know how to say her last name right for a hot minute. A hot minute. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, how's it going? How are you? How was Cookbook
Yeah.
Club? I'm so
It was,
excited.
I think it was our best one yet. At least
Nice.
dish wise, and everything was so good. We just sat there like, oh, this is good. This is good. But we are all very, very excited for April because we're doing a brunch cookbook, and
Yes.
everyone's like so pumped. We're having French toast and waffles and pancakes and bacon, and oh, it's gonna be really
Yum.
fun. And I think almost everyone can make it to that one. Like we've had a few that can't do it every month, and I think this April will be the first one where we can all do it. So I'm very excited.
Aw, fun.
But you had a little get together this weekend too. I want to hear about.
I did. I posted over. I should probably share it on our Instagram too. But
Yeah.
I did a little reel because I had my first at-home coffee shop, and it was so fun. And I underestimated the amount of time that baking is, and the amount of space in my oven because
Yeah.
at one point, yeah, I was like, oh no. So it was fine. The blueberry muffins didn't quite make it to the table, but they
Aw.
were behind, not as cute, but they tasted fine. So it was all good.
Yeah.
But yes, we had friends over and we did at home coffee shop and decorated the table, made balloons. I sent you a really funny photo because I was like, Larisa, oh no, because I had to do the balloons the night before and they started dying. And I was like, oh
Aw.
no, but
You
they
really
were still
couldn't
there.
tell. They were very cute.
Yeah, there was one that had to be taken off because I was like, I'll make a tiny balloon, and then he started deflating, and so then he was he fell to the floor, and I was like,
Very
poor guy,
sad.
didn't make it,
Aw.
didn't make it, but it was fun, and they enjoyed it. They said it's funny because it's also very true. Either I will go a gazillion% into the theming of it, as in I created a logo and spent forever making little place cards for
Yes.
everything. Or if I'm really, really tired, I'm like, okay, we are having pancakes and coffee, and that's our coffee shop.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired.
Yeah.
But no, I was in it. I was really excited. They were also traveling from out of state to come
Oh,
visit, so I was like,
fun. Yeah,
you
you got
have to
a
go
little
all in.
special. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But it
funny.
was very fun.
Yeah, you sent me the pictures and I was like, that's like a Larissa level, more so because when I do my annual Christmas party,
Mm.
I have since gone away from doing a whole big dishes and stuff for my Christmas party because of the oven situation. And then I
Yeah.
was finding that I was just so tired by the time the party actually started. So now I just do a big grazing board. But
Mm.
I used to do the little card situation, but I just hand wrote mine. You got these fancy little typed up ones with the symbols, and I was like, girl, you're making me want to do that
It
too.
was fun. I wrote it out, and then I have sticker paper from when I used to sell stickers. So it's
Yeah.
technically stickers. And then I drew a little croissant, and I drew blueberries, and I drew these little designs, and then I put them on it. So
Joy, you should have made your little mini air dry clay for all of them.
I'd be afraid someone would eat it.
Oh
Not
no.
that it looks that realistic,
Yeah.
but it's cute and I love it. And my
Yeah.
little blueberry. Because look, he's white on the back. I never
Aw.
show that part, but I didn't know how to paint the back. I don't know.
I think now that
Whatever.
it's
He's
dry, you
fine.
probably could, but
Yeah, probably good. Not
yeah,
gonna.
I would always do little holiday pun type things
Ah,
for
cute.
each dish. But now I'm like, "Ugh, I need to make the little name placard things that you did because I'm like, there's a new level of extra I need to be on. Sign me up. And I almost sent it to you. I got this reel last night. I shared it on my personal Instagram because my friends are the ones who like really know about this about me. And while this doesn't apply to you directly, I feel like you could feel the energy at least. And it was like, at any point in the world, there is an eldest daughter who's the most locked in woman making a themed get together for all her friends. And I was like, yes, that's
Yes,
me.
yes. I know way too far. But like also, do you feel like this? Because sometimes I'll do this and I'll dive so far into the details that it was like the day before and I was like, I have to bake everything today because I had
Yes.
spent like days cutting out tiny like things and like designing like I don't know, the look of the table. And then I was like, I should probably bake the food or else this is going to be not as exciting. Oh, wait, what's
Yeah.
your favorite pun? I don't want to forget to.
Oh, I can't. Oh, and you're putting me on the spot now. I'm not going to be able to think of a good one. Oh, one year I did. Oh, they're one of my favorite dishes that everyone loves. I still make it, but I just haven't put the placard out for it. But they're these bacon wrapped cocktail weenies with brown sugar. And so those are like the naughty and nice list because they are naughty for you, but they taste really nice.
Cute.
And then anytime I do like a brownie situation, those are like the lumps of
Mm.
coal.
Mm.
Um, I probably have better ones, but I just can't think of the top of
No,
my
it's cute. I
head.
like it. I just
Yeah.
named them what they were. And then I couldn't think of like how to describe that. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you describe what that thing is and whatever? If you want those, I will send them to you because I have extras of the little place card
Say
thingies for the
less.
food. Deal.
Aw.
Oh, should we get into it? Because I'm excited.
Yes, and you're up first this week,
Oh,
but
I am.
do you wanna tell everyone our theme?
Our theme is celebrity chefs, and I'm really excited about this. It is obviously from our names at the beginning. We each picked one chef, and we are diving into the history, lore, background of that chef. And it's interesting because I think while my case file is she is known for cooking, she's also known for like home in general.
Yeah.
And I don't like while I knew that, I think I just like considered it the chef side of it.
Mhm.
But my case file this week is about Martha Stewart.
Yay! Yeah, I was gonna say, I think both of ours, yours definitely more so than mine, has that home side. I feel, and you would probably obviously know because now you're the expert on her. I feel like that's almost what she's now more known for of the home and
Yeah.
hosting versus the cooking side of things. But tell me more. I'm so excited. I actually don't know a lot of her like behind the scenes. Obviously, there's some
There's some
sordid
things.
stuff that we probably
Yeah.
won't talk about because it's less cozy vibes, but tell me everything. I'm very excited.
It is she's a fascinating person. I would
Yeah.
just starting with that. There's an interview from the 90s which I feel like kind of just sums up she wasn't purposely using this to sum up something. She just kind of said it as an offhanded comment, but I feel like it really sums up who she is to like so many people is we're all trying to do the same thing, live well. And I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like that, like,
Yeah.
when I think of her, like, the living well side of it now, obviously, she can be known very heavily for being a really, really strong perfectionist. Sometimes to there's been different, like, people that have worked with her that have said different things and things like that, but, like, she is pushing to a height that while Julia Child obviously is Julia Child and brought, like, French cooking and all the details of all of that, it is wild to me that technically Martha Stewart, as far as we're aware, I believe, like was the first public female millionaire. And so like she's created an empire around the home living world.
Yeah.
But getting like way back, aka when she was born, was August 3rd in 1941 in
Wow.
Jersey City, New Jersey. That is wild. She was born right in the middle of World War II,
Oh my
which
gosh.
that is crazy. She grew up in New Jersey. She is one of six, and she's the second oldest. Her mother was a teacher, and her father was a pharmaceutical salesman. And it seems like that was kind of like a hard upbringing, honestly, not necessarily because of sibling things, but just because her father was also a pretty strong perfectionist. And um she, I think, adapted a lot of that from him in like obviously ways of like if you're running a business, you have to be so detail oriented,
Yeah.
and you have to like if your name is also the one like it is you. So it like it makes perfect sense why she was that and is that invested in the world that she's kind of created. But it's really cool too because there's a lot of things I didn't know about her. So she attended Bernard, I think is how you say it, college.
Barnard. Mhm.
Barnard, yeah.
Sorry,
I
my
feel like I should
college
know that.
expertise.
Yeah.
Did
I was
you
like, "Wait a
know
second, why do I know that?"
Lauren Graham also went there?
What? Oh, so
Mhm.
fun. Look at her. Amazing. In New York, and she got a degree in history and architectural history in 1963. She was married at the end of her sophomore year, and then she has one daughter herself. Her daughter is Alexis. The majority of this is that I focused on was like about her career because I feel like when I think of Martha Stewart, I very much so envision like the 90s Martha.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's where I focused a lot of time on the research. I watched a few different interviews with her. I watched a few different like documentaries about her. And it's really cool to see how I don't know, it was just kind of like a nice reminder for me personally that she like shifted careers because even though you think of it as like she is this home like maker extraordinaire,
Mhm.
like she actually she first modeled and that was a way
Oh,
that
whoa.
she right and that's the way that she helped pay for school. And then her first career was as a stockbroker in New York City. She was one of the only women that was like in that industry on the floor, and she was making in 1963 or something like that around 100,000 a year. So she
Whoa.
was working hard. I tell you what. Um, she also credits that knowledge of business, like a lot of the business backgrounds of knowing the behind the scenes of like how businesses work to that time period because she was so like I think she commuted like 4 hours a day one way in order to be there and then commuted back, and she did that for a few years, and then it wasn't until she left that job that she kind of got into the homemaking type side of things. And so she says that she left that job mainly because she wanted to spend time with her daughter because her daughter was about 6 at the time. And before she left, they had bought the house in Westport, which is known as Turkey Hill, which is like that first house that you see in like all of her magazines, all of the books, the first few interviews of her standing in a kitchen with like a large wood block table type thing in front of her and all the baskets above her. That's that area. And her and her husband at the time, they basically renovated all of that. Like I don't even think it had like running water basically at the time that they bought it. It had
Oh, wow.
sat it was wild. It had sat empty for about 10 years, and it is beautiful and huge, and it's wild to me that they just transformed that place into like it obviously had like the bones of what it could be, but they spent a lot of time. She was talking about how in painting, like while she was painting the outside of the house, that's when she was like listening to the TV and the radio or whatever it was about the Watergate scandal. So it's like she's like already in the process of like transferring out of like that, like I guess kind of quote unquote like corporate world into like creating her own thing. But I feel like that was one of the things that really like solidified that she wanted to focus on the home and like what she could create in that world.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really cool too because I think she was basically like at home for a year and then she decided that she wanted to start a business. So she started a catering business, and that really just kind of expanded out from there. So she started catering. She was doing a lot of parties in New York at like places like Sotheby's and things like that, where like it was very detail oriented. She had a team around her that she created. I think she put if I'm remembering correctly, she put a ad in the newspaper for like having women come to Turkey Hill to like basically interview to be part of the catering
Oh,
industry,
wow.
like in her company. So it's really cool to see how she's just kind of again like transformed through seasons and through the years to just kind of adapt. And
Mhm.
she in talking about herself, she says a lot that she's a very curious person, and I think that that's a really good aspect for an entrepreneur to have because obviously that has to be something where if you're willing and you need to adapt to all these different scenarios, you have to be curious. You have to be like, okay, well, what's going on? Um, that's also one of the things that she was talking about, like when it comes to like she loves rap, and I think that's another reason why her and Snoop Dogg
Yeah.
became. She's just a very curious person. So we'll get to that in a couple minutes, but
I'm excited.
yeah, honestly it is very cool to see her in her world, like in her like she's the word I can think of is like vibing. It's not the right way to say it. Martha would not approve, but she's just like in it and she loves it. And you can tell when she talks about it that obviously she has very high standards for it, but she also is definitely holding herself to those standards with wanting to do everything perfect. Um, her first, the first book that she wrote, she's written over, I think it was 90 that I
Oh my
saw.
gosh.
Wild. The first book was in 1982, Entertaining, and it was a huge success from the beginning. Also, I didn't know this, but there apparently wasn't a like wedding book or like a how-to type wedding book before Martha Stewart. And
Hmm.
so she was the first person that wrote that,
Oh, wow.
called Weddings, aptly named. Um, and then I thought this was really cool. So somebody asked her in an interview, this is a little bit longer. I have two kind of a little bit longer quotes, but someone says, what is it about what you were doing that women really responded to? Because she was like an immediate success in that book. She said, I think what I did was make the art, make homemaking, homekeeping, housekeeping, all those deadly words. I made them an art form. And I think that that's really what happened. I think people realized, I don't have to work in the kitchen today. I have to cook. Changing the verbs from have to do something or work in the laundry to I get to do laundry. I have to do the laundry to I'm just having a great time. I'm going to learn how to iron ruffles. It was just a different way of looking at things that women have been doing for centuries, and that were more considered drudgeries than joy. And I think it's cool because she did work in the corporate world and then she did focus on
Mhm.
like the home world of things. And so having both of those perspectives when thinking about what she was wanting, I think this is now Joy saying this, but it feels like she felt more like herself when focusing on the like art craft side of homemaking.
Yeah.
Um,
And
she
I think
also, yeah,
too, I was just gonna say that quote just also I feel like really embodies everything about her, but also in a way, this podcast too, like with the 2%, like
yeah,
we're trying to make the more mundane tasks of life a little bit more enjoyable. So
yeah,
very, very on brand for the
right.
podcast.
That's so funny. Maybe that's why that quote, because I was like, I've watched many an interview, but I feel like that one really stuck out to me, and I bet it's because of that. Because it's also something
Yeah.
that like that taking things that can feel, yeah, like she said, like the mundane and making them more enjoyable to yourself, which is so funny because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm adding things together. That's basically my 2% too, in a different way. LOL, very on brand for me apparently this week. Um, and then she was talking about how in 1982 she got her first computer, and how really there was no, like obviously there was no computers before that, but like how that was such a different world and how it really changed the way that like we are as people. um I have one more quote from her that's a little bit of a long one, but I think it's really cool. She says, I had realized already that women wanted to do all they wanted: balance, they wanted challenge, they wanted a job, they wanted to make money, they wanted to be treated as well as anybody, as well as the man next door. And what'd she say? Hold on, Martha.
You're good.
And I had done it. I had succeeded in New York. I had succeeded in assist computing. Maybe I wrote that word wrong, but I had succeeded in doing all those things. But I also realized that the home was a really great place and family was a really great thing. And gardening and everything that really fell under that title of living was very, very fascinating and very acceptable. And I think, that, again, that's that like both sides of it, where like clearly, obviously, she's an entrepreneur and she is the head of the company. And so clearly that side of work is important. But it's hard because it's interesting to see, like, I think in Martha's life as well, it's been, I don't know if she would say it's a hard balance because she's actually very optimistic, but it seems like there is an unfortunate, like she's been divorced, and obviously that's something that you can tell when she talks about it really like hurts.
Yeah.
Obviously she's had hardship where she went to jail, and that like really hurts, and her daughter have had like ups and downs in their relationship like any mother and daughter. But I would say at the end of it she really is very positive.
Mhm.
And so getting into the 1990s of it, she launched in 1990 Martha Stewart Living. In 1993, she launched a TV show, which is where I feel like maybe it's just because the TV is so like widespread, but I feel like that's really where I remember Martha as
Mhm.
just like being on TV. Like I remember like Emerald Lagasse and Martha Stewart
Yeah.
and Christopher Lowell. Do you remember Christopher
Oh,
Lowell?
no, it was Emerald, Martha, and Julia were, like, my holy trinity of
Yeah.
90s cooking.
And it's really cool too because I think it was Martha Stewart on Julia Child's show, but they were making like a 3-layer wedding cake, and it was so wild just to like see them interact and talk about things. And Martha be like, "I'm pretty sure I learned this from you," like she was talking about like different things, um, because obviously everybody had the art of French cooking. Is that what it's called?
Mhm. Mastering the Art of French Cooking,
Mastering
yeah,
the art. There it is.
which comes into play in my case file
Yay!
too.
I feel like you can't not be inspired by her.
Right,
It's just
truly.
amazing. And then in 1997, she launched Martha Stewart Omnimedia, which is like the Martha Stewart
Mhm.
company that eventually did take over the TV show in the magazine and all of it. Because at first it was with Time, I believe, and then in 1999 the company went public, and that was like on that day was when she like was the first self-made public like woman millionaire as
Wow.
far as we're aware. And then she partnered with Kmart. She also really fought for herself with that because they were like, here's this price. And she's like, nope, here's this
Mm.
price. And they were like, okay, you're Martha Stewart deal.
RIP Kmart.
I know.
So
I'm not
many
gonna
stores.
I'm not gonna lie. I in the one of the things I watched, it was like what was it called? The Blue Light Special, and I was like,
Oh my
oh
gosh, I forgot all about that. Put it
I
on
know.
layaway.
I know. Yeah, there's this one Kmart that it's interesting because I don't have like 100% specific memory of Kmart, but I like remember the layout. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Where it's
Yes.
like
I can
so
picture it
interesting.
exactly, and when growing up, we had I don't know if y'all have these out in Colorado, because I feel like in every region they're called something different, but we
Yeah.
call them Kroger where we live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it was like Kroger and Kmart, so it was like, go to Kmart, get your, like, clothes and stuff, and then go to Kroger to get your food.
Yes. There was one when I was really, really this is like a Joy throwback, having nothing to do with this, but there was one of like something Eagle or Eagle something. And I just remember there was like a place, which is wild to think about now, but there was a place where you could like your kids could like hang out while you shopped for groceries.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was all about it. I was like, drop me off. I will play. I don't want to go
Yeah.
with you.
We We didn't have anything like that, at least that I remember, but our Kroger used to always do like a trick or treat situation. So like
Cute.
that was a tradition where we would go trick or treating at Kroger.
But honestly,
It
bring it
was
back.
so
Like,
much fun.
you know,
Yeah.
bring back the colors, bring back the trick or treating. We are
Yes.
here for it. Um, but it's also wild too. So in 1982, she got her first computer, but in 1999, I watched this in one interview, and I don't remember if she was the first in like the homemaking category or the first. She was one of the firsts that had a website for like marthastewart.com.
Oh, wow.
Obviously she was the first one for that, but I think it was like under the homemaking category. And that's crazy to think like the first website. Like
Mhm.
crazy pants. Um Obviously 2001 to 2005 there was a lot of scandal involved with all of that. Dun, dun, dun. But jumping to 2010, and this is when so it's interesting because 2010 is when she like first partnered with Snoop Dogg, but then 2015 is the roast of Justin Bieber, which she was invited to, and she roasted Justin Bieber. And I feel like that's when people were like, "Oh, Martha can be funny," and
Yeah.
like kind of like funny, sketchy, like in like joking ways. And
Yeah.
I just feel like, and this is again Joy's opinions, but after all she went through with like being like America's sweetheart to like not at all to like what do I do now? I feel like she like not that she lightened up, but maybe she just was feeling more comfortable to show that side of herself. And like
Yeah.
I can't
She had a
imagine.
very successful rebrand.
Yeah, like I can't imagine 1990s Martha like roasting somebody, but like
Yeah.
2015 Martha, I'm like, get it, I'm
Yeah.
about it. Um, So Snoop Dogg came on her show. Where did I write that? Oh, it was on the first time. So the first time that he was on the show, also, I'm like, oh, this is so specifically dated. They're talking about spelling and emails and text messages.
Oh, wow.
she's like,
What
she's
a
like,
time.
right? And they're talking about like, I write R, and she's like, but it's ARE. He's like, I know, but you don't have time for that. So it's like,
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's so cute. And they make because I think like the producers weren't sure like Snoop Dogg cooking. Like, I don't know if he cooks
Yeah,
or
and now
not.
he has his own cookbook.
Yeah. It's so funny. But like the first time they make mashed potatoes, because they were like, we don't know. And but
Yeah,
then he's hilarious and he's like, yeah, I cook. And like all these things, he's talking about different things that he cooks. And then just their connection and their energy is so funny.
yeah,
And I just feel like there really is a real friendship there. And I
for
feel
sure.
like there was, I don't remember which interview this was, but so Snoop was talking about how like when everybody dipped out, that's when he came in. And I'm like, oh, like
Mm.
I just feel like they really are friends. And it's so funny because
Yeah.
they have the wine company.
Mhm.
So there's Martha Stewart wine. And I couldn't tell if the is it 19 Crimes? Is that what it's called? That the
Yeah.
wine that they have. Can't tell if that falls under that or what, but I just feel like I remember them doing I feel like it was a lighter, like a Bic lighter. Like that was
Prob
like
Snoop has, like, I think he did do
everything.
or he did, like, a smokeless fireplace recently because he was like, "I'm giving up
Ah.
smoking," and everyone was
Oh, I
like,
remember that.
"What?" And then just for this fireplace, like, that he has, like, a million brand deals, and then he was, like, the spokesman for the Olympics this summer.
Yes, I was gonna talk about that. They were at the Olympics and they're eating at this restaurant and she's trying to get him to eat a snail and he like drops it on the ground. He's like, oh no. And she's like, you wimp. And then I didn't get to see this, but at the end of that clip, it's like, and coming tomorrow. And they're both in like, oh, I'm so sorry if you do horses. I don't know what it's called. Like equestrian gear. That's what it's called.
Yeah, they narrated it. It was the best thing ever. It was so funny.
I'm so mad that I missed that, but it was amazing to see them. They're just like walking. And also Martha Stewart, I think is 82 now. So
Yeah.
like, I love that for her. I love that she's just I don't know, not like I don't want to just like say living your best life because I feel like that's like I don't want to use like a throwaway phrase, but also like she is. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
truly.
so
Yeah, she has that weird, have you seen the Skechers AI video commercial she's in? Oh
no.
my gosh, I think it was a Super Bowl ad, but I get it sometimes when I'm scrolling on my phone, and that's when I'm like, "Oh, I need to get off if I get the Martha Stewart ad." But they have her it's like her face and her body, but she's obviously not doing this movement, but she does this little, like, skippy hop. I have to find it and
Oh
send it to you,
no.
and it's so clearly AI, it looks so bad. And I'm like, "Martha, what are we doing? You
Oh
don't need
no.
this."
Oh my gosh, that's so but I just feel like she's gotten to that place
But
where
she
I
doesn't
feel
even
like
care.
yes, like in the best way possible. Like it gives me vibes of was it a Snickers commercial that Betty White did? Or like you're not you when you're hungry? I feel like that was
Oh,
her.
yeah,
They're like, you're
probably.
acting like Betty White right now, or whatever it is. And it's like I just like you start having like fun with it and you just kind
Yeah.
of like do whatever in the best way possible. But yeah, she also has some CBD products like for like wellness that she's associated with. She's also, and I couldn't figure out where in Home Depot. I'm gonna guess it's something like tile or like light fixtures or something. But she's also partnered with like Home Depot, Saks Fifth Avenue, JCPenney, Sears. I just feel like Martha is in so many places, and I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like she's still a perfectionist in like a way of like she still wants things to be done the way that she's wanting them to be done. But I feel like she has like I don't know, like loosened her collar or whatever that phrasing is, and she's just
Yeah.
chilling. And I think they're in second or third. Um, they were at least picked up in the interview that I saw for like 3 or 4 seasons of her cooking show with Snoop Dogg.
Mhm.
There it is, Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner party in 2016 is when that
Yeah.
started on VH1. I just feel like she's living and vibing and having fun, and I personally it's so funny because I said this in a previous episode, but I didn't realize that one of the cookbooks that my mom gave me when I like left the house was a Martha cookbook because the slipcover was not on it, or maybe I just destroyed it at some point. But it's just like this blue book that I always pull out and I cook from. And when I should have brought them up here, but that's okay. I was like getting into like the 90s cooking vibes of things, and I bought cookbooks from both Martha and Ina, and I rebought that cookbook.
Aw.
So I was like, "Aw," like I just feel like she is so in American culture side of things, specifically when it comes to like DIYing in the house aspects of it. Like there's used to be, I'm sure there still is actually, a joke about how like she'll do like 1,001 steps for like a cake. And
Yeah,
you're like,
I remember
Martha,
those.
I don't have this like ancient like grain from this random area. But I think also just the inspiration to try and do and host specifically, I feel like a lot comes from Martha Stewart. Um, but we have another chef that I could come from now that I've talked forever.
No, I love
Tell
it.
us about Ina.
Yay! So I'm talking about the lovely Ina Garten, and I am excited because it seems like the overlap didn't really come up when in your research, or if it did, you try to ignore it.
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
I have some exciting things to get into it. But I also didn't realize how much of their just like overall story was very similar. So I'm
Mm.
excited to kind of connect those. I have a few other previous case files to throw it back to as
Oh,
well.
I'm so excited.
So, part of why we are doing this as our theme, I recently actually read Ina's memoir that came out last year, and it's called Be Ready When the Luck Happens. So, a lot of this is going to come from that. But if you enjoyed the episode, I definitely encourage you to read that memoir. If you're into audiobooks, she narrates it herself,
Cool.
and does a really good job at it. Sometimes when authors self narrate, I'm always like, ooh, but she does very, very well at it. And um, we also, I've mentioned this, but if you haven't been listening consistently, as I'm doing Cookbook Club, her cookbook, Barefoot in Paris, was the cookbook we used for January, the first one. So that's kind of where we ended up with this
Yeah.
theme. And if you remember a couple episodes ago, if you're watching us on YouTube, I
Oh,
had
yeah.
this shirt on for the the Julie Andrews episode. And I was like, oh, this would have been really good for a future episode. And Joy had to bleep it out, but it's this one, clearly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, so, if you may have heard of Ina Garten, you may also know her as Barefoot Contessa, and I'll get into like where that name kind of came from. So, if you've only heard her as Barefoot Contessa, that's who we're talking about today. She was born in 1948, so actually just a few
Oh,
years
wow.
after Martha. She was born in New York, but grew up in Connecticut, and her family is Jewish, and also like Martha didn't really have a very good home life either.
Mm.
Um, More so with the dad side of things, but mom wasn't super great either. She does have an older brother, so a little bit smaller of a family than Martha did. And so a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, and Joy, I don't know how familiar you are with Ina's husband, but I think their relationship has sort of in a way also kind of become part of her identity as well. He makes a lot of appearances on her shows, um, but I didn't know a lot about like their relationship, and obviously she gets into a lot of that in the memoir, and it just made me really like her more and just like them as a couple a
Oh.
lot. So when Ina was 15, her older brother went to Dartmouth, and so did her husband, or not husband yet, but his name is Jeffrey. He also went there. And that's when they met when she was 15. He saw her through a window and just thought she was really beautiful and had to meet her, which is so cute. So they basically really kicked it off right away. They consistently wrote letters. She went to Syracuse, so they weren't nearby for college, but they just really kept in touch long distance. And then I'm so excited to tell you this part because when I got to this in the memoir, I almost texted you and I was like, no, I'm going to wait till we do this episode. So they were married in 1968 at the house that Martha Stewart ended up owning.
I did not know that.
Mhm.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. So wait, how earlier than, so when did Martha buy that house? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
whenever.
that would have been like a year or two. Like maybe did Martha own it when they got
I don't think she said in the memoir would go on to own it, so I
married?
don't think she had it yet.
Ooh, okay, keep going.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was, like, that one that you were talking about. I don't know if it's the same one. I didn't
Yeah.
remember, but I do know that she was married at a house that Martha Stewart went on to
Cool.
own.
Ah,
So
that's
that
so
was
cool.
such a fun connection. There's another one, but we'll get into it. Um, and so Jeffrey was serving in the military kind of for their beginning of their relationship. So, again, they had a lot of long distance. And then when he was done, they actually went on this like month-long camping trip in France. And that's really where her love of cooking started. Was she was just eating these really incredible dishes. She was reading the Julia Child cookbook,
Yes. Love
as
it.
they do. Um, and so just really learning a lot about cooking. So she didn't have any background, any professional
Wow.
training or anything, but really came to realize, and this is kind of a pillar of Ina Garten. If you've heard her kind of joke, and Martha's is the steps, Ina's is the store bought is fine, but she's very much like simple recipes, but using the best quality food is what makes a dish good. So a lot of her dishes
Yeah.
aren't necessarily really complex, but she always wants you, if, and obviously the better quality is more expensive, but if you can use the better quality ingredients because it's just going to end up tasting better. So that's where she kind of got this joy of cooking and learning about that. Um, so then they came back and were living in New York, and she started doing a lot of the same, like hosting and parties and stuff
Oh.
like that. And she kind of realized it was funny when we were talking about like having to bake all day, and she would do these really elaborate, like parties for her friends, but then was so exhausted by the time. And she was doing these on like a weekly basis, which
Whoa.
is wild to think about. Like, I have to save up my stores for that.
Yeah.
And so, just kind of as an aside, as part of their relationship, which I just really admire both of them for how they treated this. So, at one point, because Ina, grew up with her family, went to college, and then pretty much immediately married Jeffrey. And so she was never really on her own and just felt this sense that she needed to find her own independence, figure out who she was outside of others. And so when she talked to Jeffrey about this, he was like, yeah, you need to do that. I understand. We can live apart for a time. That's fine with me. So they, technically separated, but they were still married. And I just think that's such a healthy way that both of them approach that, because obviously that
Yeah.
could lend to, fighting or even divorce. But just hearing how they talked about it, and also being relatively young, like that's something
Yeah.
maybe more mature people would do, but they both, agreed to that. And so they're still married and very happily in love, which I think is a testament to the work that they put in their relationship. Um, but also kind of similar to Martha Stewart, where obviously cooking and stuff wasn't her first job. I didn't know this either, and I have it written down, so I'm going to be reading because this is kind of a complicated job. Um, Martha actually worked underneath a couple of different presidents, like had high
Wait,
profile
Ina?
government jobs. Did I say Martha?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was like,
Ina.
what?
Sorry, I was like, they're very similar to Martha. No, but
They are.
Ina had these jobs. Yeah.
Cool.
So let me find it. She was employed by the Federal Power Commission, and also later on the Office of Management and Budget in the White House. So she was
What?
like the
That's so
budget
cool.
analyst for which entailed writing nuclear energy budget and policy papers on nuclear centrifuge plants.
Oh
So
my gosh.
complicated.
5 times fast.
I know. And she worked under Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter. So I had no idea she had that background,
Whoa.
and really didn't get into cooking and all of that and the idea of barefoot Contessa until her 30s. And I know we've kind
Yeah.
of talked about that as well, of like figuring out your job and stuff later on in life. So the barefoot Contessa of it all, I also didn't know this um, at first. So Barefoot Contessa was this like specialty store in the Hamptons. And so they sold kind of what you would think of maybe like a boutique food store, but also little like kitchen home stuff or whatever.
Cool. Kind of Sur La Table-esque.
Yes, exactly. That's how I would describe it. And so the store was called Barefoot Contessa, and she ended up really falling in love with it and bought the store. So her being the Barefoot Contessa was kind
Cute.
of a retroactive thing. Like she didn't create that for herself. She kind of got into being the Barefoot Contessa, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you knew this, Joy, that storefront was used as a set in a Nancy Meyers movie. We haven't done this as a case file, but it is on my spring
Oh.
watch list. I don't know if you've seen Something's Gotta Give with Diane Keaton.
No. Oh,
Yeah, so I'll be
fun.
looking for that. I'm very excited, but had to connect it to another case file, which is
That's
always fun.
cool.
Yeah. So there she got really into hosting and started like a small catering company, again, very similar to
Hey,
Martha. And then in 1999, she had her very first cookbook published. It was called The Barefoot Contessa Cookbook.
cute.
So, very simple starting out. And her focus with it was that she really wanted recipes to be easy to follow and approachable, again, with that simple dishes, but more complex or, better quality ingredients. And she said when she was just overall learning and practicing, she gave an example of soup and how like she was trying to make the soup
Mm,
really good. And it was fine. And she was having people taste it. And they're like, oh, it's good. And then she just added, I don't remember the actual spice or herb, but she added in just a little bit and it just elevated it so much and really just took it from
that's
like
cool.
good to great. And so I think
Yeah.
that's also just a testament to cooking. And what I like to do when I cook is like, okay, this is fine, but like, how can I just take it to the next level and make it a little bit better? So as of now, I don't want to say she's finished, but as of now, she has 13 cookbooks in
Wow.
total. And then when she started getting into television, she actually got her start having a little segment on Martha Stewart's show.
Cute.
Hmm.
Yeah, that tracks.
And so when you were talking about her little production company, that
Yeah.
was what started like Ina's first show too. So I
Nice.
was really
Nice.
excited learning about that. So she's had a couple of different shows. Um, and why I really like her relationship with Jeffrey. He often shows up on the show and she'll like
Cute.
make meals for him or for their friends, which is just because that's been their relationship the whole time, and so it just feels
Yeah.
very authentic to their relationship. And I wish I looked it up beforehand, but there is a TikToker. He's a guy, but he does such a good Ina Garten impression. Like he has a little bob wig that he'll wear. He has
Yes,
a
get
little
it.
blue collared shirt. And then one of her little catchphrases is how blank is that? So sometimes she'll
Oh,
be like, how
yeah.
great is that? How fabulous is that? And in her book, she used that so often. Like there was a time where she was kind of like really just overworked and tired.
Mhm.
And she was like, just not really enjoying life at the time, and she just wrote, "How sad is that?" It's just like, and it's just very on
Aw.
brand for Ida, but she's doing great now. But yeah, the TikToker will just have like his little martini glass and be like, "How fabulous is that?" And it's so good. Um, and then when we were doing our collages at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
I have an old like food and wine magazine, and they did a little feature with Ina, and they
Cute.
made this little board game that you could like. We did it, but you had to like go through the game to get to Jeffrey for dinner. It's just really
Cute.
cute and funny. And
Also, I'm
so
definitely adding, "How sad is that?" Like something goes wrong in life.
yeah, yeah,
That's my
I
new
feel like
phrase.
it'll make you a little it'll cheer you up a little bit, just be like, "How
Yeah,
sad
it's
is that?"
hilarious. I thought for some reason, I thought you were gonna say, "How not fabulous is that?" That's what I thought you were gonna say.
That's honestly it too. That's very not fabulous.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, she even in the memoir talks about how she kind of has a uniform.
mm.
So if you ever watch her, she's literally in probably like three different shirts. She does like a
Yeah.
lighter blue stripe. She has the like more royal blue and then like a black button down. That's like pretty much all she wears. Um, but she kind of wrapped up the memoir. She jumped around. She did a lot in the early and then kind of skipped over a lot of middle to later in life, but she wrapped it up around the pandemic. And I remember this going on. And so it's kind of fun to hear her side of things.
Yeah.
So obviously, like she still had the show going on. And so they had to shut down production. And then, as we, I think, talked about a few episodes ago about how a lot of people were doing kind of at home productions, the show went on at her house and she was talking about how, you know, she had a whole crew doing everything and now it was just her. Like she did her own makeup, she
Ooh.
did her own filming, she prepped the ingredients and everything. And I don't know if you ever saw this, Joy, if her, I'm assuming some of our cozy detectives saw this because it went really viral, but she decided, and this wasn't necessarily part of the show, but she had this like comically large martini glass. Just she got it as a gift or something. And she made this Cosmo with a like full bottle of vodka. And she just like talked about like, I just decided we all needed something to laugh at, be a little silly in those times. And so
Cute.
just because I remember seeing that, so just kind of hearing the backside of, yeah, I just
Yeah.
decided to do it. I thought it would be fun. And then she even kind of talked about how it went viral and what that was like because
I remember
I
that.
think, you know, obviously she's famous and popular, but there's a little bit difference of going viral in that way that she I don't think she
Yeah.
had really experienced before. So it was just kind of fun getting to hear her talk about the giant Cosmo.
Cute. I feel like it also just makes like Martha talked a little, or in a few interviews talked a little bit about like in 2020, that's when she went to social media too. And I feel like that
Mhm.
also, I feel like they both are very big on connecting with people. And I feel
Mhm.
like in a time where like that was the way to connect with people, it's like, it's interesting to see how their personalities came out with that. Like, I
Yeah.
love that Ina's like, I'm just going to make this. This sounds funny. Like,
Yeah. So that's Ina Garden.
aw, I really like that. I don't think I knew anything outside of she's had a show, or does she still have the show?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't yeah, I it said that it was still present, but I don't know what network or anything it's on,
Yeah.
but I follow her on Instagram, so I get her little videos sometimes. Like she just did one of how to cut a roast chicken. Um and it was also really cute. So a little bit before Valentine's Day, she made this post asking for people to send in their favorite duet songs, and she made a little
Oh,
playlist inspired
wow.
by her and Jeffrey's like relationship and everything, and like submissions she
Cute.
got. And I was like, I love them so much.
I really like that. So the show is, so when she's like at the house in that kitchen and then she walks outside, that's her house.
No, it was I mean, it was a set, but
Gotcha. But eventually she
now
ended up
it's a
being it.
house, yeah, because it was
Yeah.
COVID and stuff, so, yeah.
Wow. That's cool. Actually, speaking of viral, I did not ask you my quiz question.
Ooh, yes.
On Martha Stewart's YouTube channel, what do you think, or who do you think is her most popular viral guest that she had on? Not, it's somebody who is not a chef.
It's not Snoop Dogg.
He's number 2.
Oh.
He's right there.
Oh,
It's a comedian.
I'm so bad at knowing
No,
famous
you're
people.
good.
Yeah, you have to
In
tell me.
in Hook.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Yeah. It just made
Oh,
me so happy. I was like,
that's so
"Aw."
sweet.
They're hilarious, and one of the comments was like, "You have to realize when you have Robin Williams on, it is now his show because he's just off the
Yeah,
rails."
seriously. Oh,
It's so
we need to
funny.
do a Robin Williams
I
episode.
know. So he's number 1 at 8 million currently, Snoop Dogg is 2 for their mashed potatoes at 4.3 million. So funny. And then the third one, which I'm like, honestly, I get it. It is how to fold a fitted sheet.
Yeah,
We
I've
need that
watched so
video.
many and I never remember. I'm like, "Okay, I got it. I'm doing it."
Yep.
And then when I actually go to fold it, I'm
Like,
like,
forget
"Oh, no."
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
roll it up.
Roll it up. That's what happens to me too. And then fourth, just because we're in this track now, is how to clean and season a cast iron skillet, which I feel like
Oh,
also
yeah.
very needed, you
It's
know?
so true, yeah.
So I get it. But that reminded me of it when you said the viral because I'm like, oh yeah, I
Yeah,
meant to ask that. But so
fun.
fun. It's so fun to learn about. I don't think I knew the details about either of them. I feel like I knew more details about Martha. And I don't know if maybe it was just because Martha somehow because it was the 90s, but then she would have started Ina's. So I don't know. I don't know how I just didn't watch Ina as much as I've watched Martha.
Yeah,
But love Ina. That was the cookbooks that I went searching for. So
yeah.
I was like, I have to have Ina cookbooks
I
because
know.
Larissa has them.
And this is fun too because we've never just done a person. Like we've talked a
Yeah.
little bit about them when they were the theme, but yeah, this is a little bit different of a case file, but super fun.
And perfect timing too, because we both did cooking
Cookie.
type things. I
Cookie
almost made
things.
cookies. Cookie things.
Love it. Well,
Not
tell me,
fabulous. Wait, was it?
how sad
How
is
sad is
that?
that?
And you have to like do it in her voice too. Like, how
Yeah.
sad is that?
I love that she just actually talks like that, and it's, like, all
Yeah,
over
and
her
it was
book.
like so like she had something and it was like, how French is that? Like
You're like, "Girl,
everything.
just throw
Like
any
I
word
know.
in
I
there."
started like texting Jacqueline like how blank is that thing she had
Oh my
in like
gosh.
and I'm honestly surprised the memoir wasn't called How Fabulous Is That? Like I'm a little sad it
Yeah.
was.
Oh, volume 2.
Truly. Well,
Oh,
tell me
so
about your
good.
2% this week.
So my 2%, it's funny because I feel like it all ends up connecting. I don't know if it's just because it's, like, in our brains that week or what,
Probably, yeah.
but mine was kind of one where it's basically taking something and just, like, adding that well, obviously, the whole point of it's the 2%, but, like, I've really been focusing on obviously focusing when you're driving, but just, like, playing
Make sure
obviously
you
focus
focus.
first step focus. But just, like, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes if I get stressed, sometimes I, like, will forget about music. I don't know how to, like, phrase that well, but, like, playing music in the house while we were baking. I did that the whole day. And then when we had friends over, it was like a coffee shop because I was playing the same playlist. And I'll tell you what that playlist is in a second. It's very on brand. But I was playing the playlist and they knocked on the door. And so we just like went to get the door and I forgot the playlist was on. And then it just like vibed so well with the day that we just left it on. It was the 90s moms playlist.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's just so good. And so I just feel like I don't know. I meant to look up the details of like singing out loud and just doing things like that, but I don't think I need to know all of the statistics of it to know that it makes me feel better. And
Yeah,
so
as long as it makes you happy, that's important.
yeah, so that's in my 2% is just kind of listening to ABBA and the 90s moms playlist because it makes
Fun.
me laugh and I enjoy it immensely. And it's really funny when you like pull up to a drive through and you're like playing like not today's music. Everybody's just kind of like, okay. You're like, yeah. So that's my 2%. What's your
Aw,
2%?
fun. Mine's also kind of, I guess, in a way related, but I obviously have a lot of cookware dishes, all of
Mm.
the things. Um, and I tend to just kind of reach for the same ones. Like my mugs, I have like a rotation of like my main 5.
Mm.
And I think I mentioned, I don't think it was ever a 2%, but I know it was a 2% for you. And I mentioned that I was also kind of in a smoothie phase. So I hadn't used it almost in like a year. I feel like it's very spring summer vibes, but I have this glass that's like in the shape of a strawberry. And so it
Cute.
was like in the back of my cabinet and I pulled it out and I was like, I need to use like I have all these fun glasses and plates and stuff that I just never use because I just have the ones that I use in my everyday that I don't know, it was just a little extra cozier grabbing something fun and cute and whimsical
Yeah.
that I don't typically use. So that was my 2%.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I have a bad habit of that. I also have a bad habit of I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put the like Christmas ones away so that they're like special for
Hmm.
Christmas, and then I like forget to take them out. Like
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
have the
guilty of
spring
that
ones out
too.
right now. I know, so that's a good reminder for me too. Bring out the spring mugs because they're hiding
Yeah.
somewhere amongst the piles.
Yeah, truly.
Ooh,
But getting into our cozy detectives, we have Flies Like the Vulture Man got a new doormat. And
nice.
they also said that they swapped out their pine cone wreath for one with peonies. So bringing
Oh,
in the spring vibes, which
favorite flower.
the
That
day
and
we're
sunflowers.
yeah, the day we're recording this is actually the very first day of spring, which is fun.
Woohoo.
And then bookmarked by Ashley attended some outdoor markets and craft fairs at their local coffee shops, which is
Oh,
so fun and
obsessed.
very much our vibe.
Yeah, and kind of a good way to like kick it back to the like how to have a cozy spring. That would be a good way to do one of the classes. That one of
Yes.
our
Tips
tips.
was.
Yeah.
We have a friend who does that all the time. Like we'll say something and he'll just be like,
I just feel like I like pick up on something and then I'm like,
yeah, I
because like
start
I
doing it.
in my head I'm still thinking of like how sad is that? Like my head is still rotating. I'm like,
Yeah,
don't forget it. It's hilarious.
yeah, a new
Uh,
catchphrase.
yes, exactly.
But anyways, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Blanket Fort Files Pod. Keep sending in that 2% cozier and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to join us next week in the Blanket Fort where we will discuss our recent spring cozies.
Woohoo.
Which
I
I need
got
to
it.
figure out what mine is.
Same.
It's very on brand though for us.
I know. I'm like, what's cozy? What am I doing?